index laws, and you will know some of these laws already. If the base number is the same, in this case x, then x to the power a multiplied by x to the power b is x to the power a plus b. Likewise, if you have x to the power a divided by x to the power b, the answer is x to the a minus b. This only works when you've got the base number, in this case x, the same. It doesn't work in other situations. Finally, if you have x to the power a, which itself is then raised to the power b, the answer is x to the power a times b. Now you know those ones already, but there are some other index laws to learn, which we'll go over now. The first one is if you have x raised to the power 0. Anything to the power 0 is equal to 1. It's a very handy law to know. So if you have 6 to the power 0, the answer is 1. If you have 324 to the power 0, the answer is 1. Very nice one to know about. Okay. The next one, if you have x raised to a negative power, so x to the power negative a, the negative tells you to take a reciprocal of x. Now a reciprocal just means 1 over x. So the answer is 1 over x to the power a, positive a. So an example would be if you have 4 to the power minus 1. The answer is the reciprocal of 4, or 1 quarter. Slightly more care and attention is needed if you have a different number here, if you have a minus 2 for example. So if you have 6 to the power minus 2, then you still take the reciprocal of 6 in this case, but it's 6 squared. And 6 squared is 36, so the answer is 1 over 36. But that's your law, x to the power minus a is equal to 1 over x to the a, your reciprocal of x. And then finally, the last one we're going to look at is if you have a fractional power. So if you have x raised to the power 1 over a. And the fraction tells you to take a root of x. And depending on what this fraction is, determines what the root is. So if you have x raised to the power a half, you take a square root. If you have x raised to the power a third, you take the cube root because the 3 is on the denominator. But in general, the rule can be written out as the relevant root of x, where a is the denominator of this fraction. So let's do some examples. Let's have a look at 4 raised to the power half. Okay, now because there's a 2 at the bottom of this fraction, we're going to take the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. Likewise, if you have 27 raised to the power a third, then because we've got a 3 here at the bottom of this fraction, we're looking for the cube root of 27. The cube root of 27 is 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So that's kind of easy. Again, slightly more thought is needed if you have a more complicated fraction up here in the power. So if you have, for example, 64 raised to the power 2/3, you've got a 2 over 3. What we need to do with this is separate out the power so that you think of it slightly differently. If you write it out to say 64 to the power 1/3 multiplied by 2, you can then think of these two powers separately. So 64 to the power a third, we know, don't we, from our law, means we're looking for the cube root of 64. So we have the cube root of 64, all of which is then squared. And from there on in it becomes easier because 64, the cube root of 64 is 4, because 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. And 4 squared is 16. So 64 to the power 2/3 is equal to 16. But your general law, once more, is x to the power 1 over a is equal to the relevant root of x, where a is the denominator of this fraction. So you've got 3 nice, new, lovely index laws to learn.